mushroom tea.
Yeah, that stuff's so amazing.
What exactly is it, Shaylee?
It's mushroom coffee. It's like made with all the good healthy mushrooms, like 3,000 different types of mushrooms in it. And it's good, clean energy, clarity of mind. Like,
Get it online?
yeah, like Amazon has a ton of different brands. Cause like the ones that are all on Facebook, they're more expensive. Can't be on YouTube at the same time you're recording.
So
Just
just
Hi guys, this is Chris. I just wanted to check and see if you all can hear me. Hello?
okay, can you hear us now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you all now. Thanks.
So on video, click the little carrot
So what did you do?
and choose meeting Alzheimer.
The same. Okay, so let's go.
Commissioner for almost.
There you go.
Now, but
It should be good.
Then click on the microphone though, let's make sure the little thing next to the microphone to pop out for us, to make sure we're on. And echo. Okay.
Cool, sweet. Okay, you guys have enjoy your meeting.
And then about a year. Just click play again. Now go back to your owl window.
play out. I can almost, this
You
one,
can maximize that and,
we're good.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I get.
and I'll get on YouTube to make sure it's still on.
Thank you. It's a good brainstorm. Yeah.
It just keeps getting better.
I love my dog.
I'm on my scooter, so.
Okay, my husband says every time.
Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, and YouTube is.
Sweet.
Right?
Thank you.
So that was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that was just.
How are you doing? Very well. Good.
It's like full circle back to square one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's super bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I just came to a position like that. I was.
Chris, where are you?
I'm in Stanley, Idaho. I'm up in Idaho for yeah, about a little over a week to go do some climbing and backpacking kind of stuff.
That's one of my favorite places in the whole world.
It's beautiful. I haven't been here before. It's my first time, but it's a pretty amazing spot.
Did it by
Oh, yeah.
hand.
You get no
I like-
sympathy
I like-
from us.
I like that little daily they have, it's real fun.
It's just awful.
Real
The
fun.
little what, Mary?
Daily on the salmon there.
Oh, on the river here. Cool. Yeah, we just pulled into town.
Melissa, where are you?
Yeah.
Melissa, you're muted.
I am in Fry Canyon, so halfway between Lake Powell and Landing, I guess, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
No sympathy from us.
It is pretty. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Hi, Carter.
What's going on? Is it Fry Canyon, like actual Fry Canyon? Is it back open again?
No, but it will be. So right now it's like in pre kind of planning stages, architecture. So these are just a couple of tiny homes.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, super fun.
Great filming location. Make sure you let me know when it opens back up again.
Okay, absolutely. It is absolutely gorgeous here. So pretty. It's right in the middle of Bears Ears with BLM land. So it's the only 30 acres of privately held property in this area. And it's really beautiful. The views are stunning.
That's wonderful. So are they here in this room? This handsome crowd here, ready to make some big decisions?
Yes.
So, Shaylee, do you know if Lacey's going to join us online?
I think she's planning on being here.
Present?
Yes.
Okay.
But she told me an hour ago.
Okay.
She might be a little bit late.
She might be a little late.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let us begin. It is 3:03. I'm calling to order the August 23rd meeting, 23, meeting of the Economic Development Advisory Board. Thank you for being here, and we'll start with our colleagues who are online to begin with. So Jasmine, would you join us?
I'm with you.
Okay,
Are we doing introductions again or?
please.
Okay. I'm Jasmine Duncan. I'm the mayor of Castle Valley and a non-voting member of this board.
Glad to have you with us. Chris?
Hi all, Chris Wilson. I'm a member of the advisory board, private sector representative.
And Melissa?
Hi, Melissa Jeffers, member of the board and representative of the community at large.
Wonderful. And I'm going to come back. Is Elisa with us?
I am, yes. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I'm still packing up. We're doing our big move today over to the new building. So I'm the last one that hasn't packed my office yet. So I'm still working on it, but I'm going to be paying attention and participating. My name is Elisa Martin. I'm the planning director for the county.
Thank you. And a special welcome to Colette Cox. Say hey.
So good to see everyone today. Thank you for having me.
And you are with?
I am with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and I am the Rural Outreach Manager for Grand and San Juan counties.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can we start with you, Quinn?
You bet. My name's Quinn Hall. I'm the Associate Commission Administrator for the county, and I'm kind of temporarily filling in while we look for a new director.
Mary McGann, I am the liaison for the Grand County Commission.
I'm Shaylee Bryant. I am the Chamber's representative and a voting member.
Wonderful. You're the Vice President. of the
And Vice
Chamber.
President. I'm Vice President of the Chamber and I'm the Secretary of this board.
Yes, you are.
Michael Black, I am the Community Development Director for the City of Moab.
Viga Metzner, Moab to Monument Valley Film Commissioner.
That's a big mouthful. Forrest Rogers, Moab Museum and Chair of this board.
And Sky White, Grand County Economic Development Department.
And Kari.
I'm Kari Keeler. I am with Graham County School District.
Kari is the CTE director there. I want to begin with a couple of acknowledgements. I want to thank Colette for taking time with the group of us yesterday, Melissa Stocks, Sky, and me to give some initial feedback to our proposed projects for the 2024 Rural Counties Grant Program, and following up on some ideas and reviewing our proposed final report that will be acted upon today. I also want to acknowledge Sky's work during this crazy period of time. I see that she's assumed a new title, which is Interim Economic Development Specialist.
I didn't assume it. I think they gifted that to me.
They did not gift it to you. You earned it.
Okay.
You earned it. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. Are there any conflicts of interest, disclosures, or ex parte communications? I'm seeing blank stares, so I will assume there are none. We have citizens to be heard, and Kari will be speaking on the agenda later to our proposed projects for the 2024 Rural Counties Grant. And there are no other presentations that I'm aware of, so let us begin. On pages 4 to 8 in the packet, we have the July 26, 2023 meeting minutes. I would entertain a motion to adopt those. After a second, we'll ask for discussion.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Okay, Shaylee, you have made that motion.
I second the
Chris?
motion.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, is there any questions or discussions about the motion? You will notice, did you?
That's just us. I was like, there's no one else here.
Yeah, we got some folks online. So that said, we have a motion on the floor, a second. All in favor, say aye or raise their hand. Aye, 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 aye. We've approved that. Those are approved. I want to particularly acknowledge the fact that included in that packet were the minutes from our May 23rd or 26th and May 30th meetings when we made those final appropriations of the 2023. So thank you for including those. Those are really helpful reminders. Next item of business then is the report on those decisions and recommendations. This will be, we're going to submit this to the county commission for approval.
It's been reviewed.
It's been
Actually, I
reviewed.
don't think they need to at this point approve it, if
Okay,
I'm understanding correctly. We're just submitting the report on the 2023 rural
It's
county
due
grant.
September 1st.
Correct.
okay.
So
Okay.
it's up to this board to make sure that that aligns with what your
Right.
intentions were and
What we
and
said we were going to
expectations
do.
were.
Yeah, okay. So if everybody has had a chance to look through that, if there are any questions. Entertain questions, no questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve the report and the letter of attestation or affirmation.
Make a motion to approve.
You are very reliable and I appreciate that so much.
I just wanted to, I thought I had a question, but I.
Oh, do you have a question?
No.
Okay, so Shaylee has made the motion. A second. Melissa, Chris, help us out.
I'd second the
I
motion.
second.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's just
It's
the,
been the summer.
it's the summer, that's right. So, motion has been made and seconded. If there's no discussion, a call for a vote on that. So we're voting to approve the 2023 report and the letter of attestation. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Oh, Karen has joined us. Okay, Karen just signed in. Hi, Karen.
Hi, first, you guys, I apologize, I'm not there in person, had a little emergency, so.
We're glad you're with us. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so it appears that all hands were raised or nods, so we have approved that. The next item on the agenda is our first and maybe final review of the 2024 Rural County Grant application with projects recommended. These are on page 33 to 41 of the packet. If you have that handy, we'll walk through that gently. This is actually due on October 1. And we wanted to have a full discussion at this table today in the event that there are some changes that come up.
Is there any way to put, like, to share? I'm sorry, I forgot my laptop. I couldn't run home today to get it. Can we share it?
The screen,
Uh-huh.
when we get to that?
Or just like the agenda or
Oh,
whatever
sure.
we're looking at, because I'm trying to see if it's real small on my phone.
It's really hard.
You got younger eyes than I do. So we're gonna stop for a moment for a technical adjustment.
Everything was going real smooth and that's about ready to leave and that's going to.
Don't let me in, man. Share.
Okay, as a reminder that in the absence of a economic development director, the commission had some options to think about what we would put together for this application. This is the $200,000 grant cycle. And in the absence of other immediate ideas from members of the board, Sky and I took the liberty of looking back at the awards we made in the TRT distribution decisions, and have put together, with collaborations from the chamber, from the high school, and from the childcare, Moab Community Childcare, some suggested projects. These would all be continuations, extensions, or expansions of grants that we've made in the last couple of months. And the thinking is, rather than trying to disperse money around to a variety of different people in a variety of different places, we'd go ahead and continue investments we've made. The goal is to help sustain these activities, these projects. So the first one, and Colette, I appreciate your review of these. And perhaps after each one, you could give us your reactions to them. Colette will be she won't be an advocate for the application, but she's an advocate for what we're trying to do. So appreciate that. This first request is for $50,000 to the Moab Community Child Care Program. And if you haven't had a chance to read the description, I'd ask you to do that quickly. This would be the possibly third or fourth investment being made in the community child care program. This one is specifically targeted at expanding the cadre of certified community child care providers so that they can provide relief for the providers who have the centers. And it would also gives those owners a chance to attend to medical appointments, shop, work, whether they're working from home at times or whether they're working in an office. It's also an opportunity for them to have a little bit of respite, which is needed by every child care worker in the world. So this is the request. Rob has done a great job of identifying the economic benefits, both to the community and to the child care ecosystem that we have in this community. Shaylee.
I have one question on this, because I think he addresses that they're well on their way to financial self-sufficiency, which I appreciated. And I think this is such a needed part of our community to continue to help our economy thrive, like helps parents work. But do they have an ETA? Like how many more fundings do they think they're gonna need before they are self-sufficient? And maybe it's in there, I just didn't see it when I read it earlier. It's like, how many years do they feel like they're gonna need some grant funding before it's thriving on its own?
Has Rob joined us?
He's fine to be here.
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to be.
He was going to be here online at some point.
Shaylee, I was gonna just say that point 4, it seems like potentially it could be at the end of this year. Because he says the second is a new high valued service we plan to roll out later this year, drop-in care for tourist children. So it feels like it's close.
I just was
Can I jump in real quick here?
Please do. Thanks, Karen. Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you both. Yeah, I had a long conversation with Rob, talking through his proposal and trying to just learn more about it. And so I can just give a little bit of context based on that conversation in his absence. I mean, I think basically there's a couple of things in terms of getting to viability, like long-term sustainability. And that is that they could do that soon with some of these new programs like the tourist childcare, but their goal is to expand the number of childcare slots available to the community. And in doing so, it's kind of like you move from giving childcare to the folks who can afford it right now at the market rates or the near market rates. I'm also seeing that Rob's joining right now, so we should have him help answer this question. But as they're expanding to give more and more, open up more and more slots, there're going to be more and more financial need from those people. There's going to be more need for extra support in order for them to be able to afford it. So, you know, the first thing is availability. And as they move to this next phase of expanding slots even more, it's going to be availability and affordability are both challenges. And I think that's something that, you know, as a community, you know, whether it's through these types of grants or other types of support from, you know, local government, there's kind of a question as to, you know, what level do we want to continue to support it at so that you really can have availability and affordability. So I don't think there's necessarily just like one answer to that question. It's sort of up to us also as a community as to like, how far do we want to push it in terms of availability and affordability? Because I think they, as an organization, are willing and able to continue to push it as far as the funding will allow it to go. And I, just to say one more thing there, I mean, I think that through a grant like this, we can help give them clear sustainability for another, I don't know, another year out, something like that, which allows them, it frees them up to be more ambitious in terms of their growth plans and get to that true level of availability that we need, because there's, you know, they've done a ton, and I think that's such an amazing organization, but there's still clearly a lot more that needs to be done in Moab. So I'm a big supporter of this one, and would be happy to try to answer any other questions. But like I said, I think Rob's on with us now too.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, guys. Sorry I'm late. I caught the tail end of Chris's answer. That sounded really, really good, Chris. I don't think I could have said that better myself. I got the sense that you were talking, I missed the question around sort of, but I mean, the three things that we go for as an organization, there's three adjectives we care about, which are availability, affordability, and quality. And, you know, availability was kind of like, in some, they go together. And so I would say that we are working on all three of those. Quality is like throughout everything that we're doing. Like we just did like a thing where now we, all of our staff training now happens online, so they can do it at their own time, which makes the quality of life a lot better than getting everybody together. And then we can like track when they do it. So anyways, our mission is very small and simple and very focused. And then on the affordability and availability side, I would just add that it is definitely, tomorrow, if we had 100 new childcare spots in town, the issue would then become affordability. And I would love to do more on affordability. In town, we only have about 60 families that qualify for the federal childcare subsidies. And that out of probably 150 that are currently getting childcare. And just to give you a sense, that number was 45 when we started. So we've helped like 15 families out of maybe like maybe like 40 or something that have been filled. So the point is that it's not as the subsidies are great, but they're a little harder to qualify than I thought. And I would love to, the biggest problem I don't have a good answer for right now for families when they ask me, is it affordable? I say is below our cost of providing the service right now. It is half the price if we were a private institution like Bright Horizons or Kid Care. But if you're in the missing middle, it's the same thing in childcare as it is in housing. And I want us to do more. It's very expensive, as you can imagine, to subsidize those families. Sorry, I just kind of got a little train there. But let me, if there's any questions I can ask about the proposal. But if we had more money tomorrow, if we had an extra $100,000 in our bank, I would probably come up with a program that we'd administer where it'd be something like we will verify your income. Because right now, if you are self-employed or if you earn tips, it can be hard to qualify for federal childcare subsidies, even if your income is low enough. And if your income is over $80,000 as a family, and if you have 2 kids or 3 kids, like, that the childcare as a percentage of your income is, $12,000 a child. It's still too high. And there's no thing for them. So being able to help people with a few $100s a month will, could be the difference between that person deciding to keep their job versus quit their job. Because if they have multiple kids, the math won't quite work for them to keep doing that. But we can certainly leverage money better for availability rather than affordability, as you can imagine, right? It's just costs less.
Rob, the initial question from Shaylee was, does this look like it? How much longer, how many years out or months out will support from the county be needed? And one estimate was a year, and I think that was taken from the first page here when you referenced the next 12 months. So I think that's the question. You've talked about it. And so at some point, is there a nexus between affordability and accessibility? Do those come into, do those match at some point?
Okay, well, I feel like there's a few questions. The last one let me take, and then let's get back to Shaylee's. As availability increases, affordability becomes more of an issue. One thing that I feel like we've noticed anecdotally, I don't have data on this. Well, I have some data on this, is that the families that are in our center currently, in our infant center, if you take out a lot of our families earn well over the median income. I was really surprised to see that. And my guess is that, there's somewhat of a sense of, I can afford this when you're a wealthier family. And so I think that as, we're kind of in some ways, the spots that are being added are probably going disproportionately to wealthier families in town in the beginning. And then as we add more spots, those will be more, we'll have to, explain that there are subsidies available in other families. That's just my sense. So I think like I said, if we had more availability tomorrow and we have some line of sight to increasing that availability, then we may run into a situation where we need to do more on affordability to fill those spots. We haven't had to do that yet. Like, there's plenty of people that are willing to pay. They just want the spots that are there. So that's to that point. I didn't understand. Did Shaylee mean that, like, how much runway will this $50,000 provide to us? Or was it something, was that the question?
I think that's exactly what your question was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and for me, like, I mean, it's been a while since you and I have talked, and I was reading through it, and it was just like, I guess my question was, what's the end goal? And I love that there isn't really a specific end goal. Because I mean, we know that progress is going to happen. We know we're going to grow. So that means more families, more kids.
What is so I mean, I actually feel like I can answer this. In terms of what is Moab Community Childcare's end goal? Yeah. So like, our mission, right, is to increase the availability of affordable, high quality childcare in town. But our vision, right, is to turn Moab from a childcare desert, which is what, the government describes as a place where you have, I think it's less than 1/3 of the available spots for children that are childcare available, into a childcare oasis, which is, I just thought, like a turn of a phrase that sounded nice. And what does that actually mean? And it just means that childcare is, widely available. It's available after hours. It's available on weekends. There are affordability options for parents that are working. So like, we'll eventually probably publish that as like, here's our vision of like, and I do think this is the kind of thing that we can accomplish in, call it 3 to 5 years. We added 50 spots right now. I don't know if the answer is another 50 or another 100. We also need to add weekend and then after hours care. And then, and then to get there, we want to be more sustainable as an organization. I think I mentioned this briefly. I think we're going to roll out tourist daycare for tourists. And I think that could be a big game changer for us financially. And then also for other providers, we could help them kind of tap into that. If that turns out, I think I have to imagine that out of 3 million people that come here, we can get a few of them to come. And so like, the vision is that, yeah, we'll have more providers, more spots, more widely available. And yeah, I think that's like a 3 to 5 year thing for me.
Mary?
Personally, I think this program is valuable enough that we're probably going to, on some level, want to subsidize it for an incredibly long time, if not forever. I mean, it's somewhat like schools. They're not money makers. It's the way we prepare the next generation to be successful citizens, and the better childcare they have, the better we're going to, it's going to end up saving us huge amounts of money if these children have quality daycare, they go on, they're successful in school, and it just, you know, it goes from there. So I see it as continuing. I see, I'm going to work as long as I'm, you know, in this position to make sure that we find ways to support this organization. I don't see it becoming self-sustainable.
Okay.
It could, but I don't think.
Shaylee, did I fully answer? There's a few different aspects, I feel like, to maybe what your question is around sustainability.
I got an idea of what my question was. I just wanted, it touched on the sustainability of itself financially. So I just wanted to know, like, really, you know, is that an end goal, or do you feel that this is, you know, necessary to subsidize permanently? Because I kind of agree with Mary that this is a huge need in our community to help our economy thrive and grow in a really positive way, on top of helping our children become, you know, the higher quality of childcare young is going to then the higher quality of kids that we're going to get in our schools. So I think this is a huge thing. I just wanted, it got touched on, so I was like, does it ever feel like it's going to be sustainable? So I was
It
wondering
could
that.
become sustainable, but then it wouldn't be improving.
Right.
And I think
Yeah,
my vision is to see it consistently improving on the number of slots and affordability for our parents.
Final
Yeah,
point, Rob?
I just wanted to say that, yeah, that I am going to try, and I believe there's a chance with using the tourists to subsidize this operation, that we could be more of a self-funded nonprofit that doesn't require grants. I feel like that obviously makes for a self-sustaining organization. It makes you more resilient. I would love to get there. And I think we could. I mean, the rough math I did, I mean, if you charge $20 an hour for drop-in babysitting, you know, that's $200 a day and 250 days a year that we're open. That's $50,000. And then there's no additional change in our cost structure to add one person. So that's $50,000 right there. So, you know, but we have to absolutely do that, roll it out, and we'll see how it goes. And maybe I'm missing something. It'll turn out to be tough, but I know places do that up in Park City. There's 2 childcare centers there. So we could benefit from that and require less grant funding in the future. The current program as it stands, you know, supports, you know, like I said, a certain amount of activity, and that current run rate with our current cash, I mean, it's something like $6,000 or $7,000 a month, more like probably $7,000 a month in terms of the investment to the support that we're currently doing. So in terms of like how long that money would last, but we have more places that we're working to support right now. I don't know if you guys have heard, you know, Head Start is in trouble with getting staffing. They have their own separate funding. We'll be able to get a higher copay from them. But the point of this request was to make sure we don't have to slow down our support that we're doing. I would love to get to a point where, you know, we are requesting less this year than last year and the year prior. We're diversifying our sources. And I think in terms of dollars per kids that we're addressing, it's a really good value. But yes, it is a daily intervention. It's just like a kindergarten kind of thing. It's obviously not curriculum based as much, but I'm optimistic that right now we're roughly 2/3 self-funded with the money that we're getting from parents and from providers.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Colette, are you still with us?
I sure am.
Quick reaction to this proposal?
Yeah, so it's no secret that I am a mega fan of Rob Walker and the Moab Community Child Care Program. My only downfall is I wish that Rob would agree to implement this program across the state and interrupt the industry. So I appreciate this group for being innovative and supporting Rob and his team through the Rural County Grant Fund. It is one of our most innovative programs within the rural communities. And my feedback, particularly as you're going into, your third year of funding, is I think it absolutely warrants support. However, what I want to caution this group about is making sure that the language, and I can work with Sky and Forrest and the other staff members from the county who are working on the final grant language, to really make sure the language shows that this is an economic support versus a social service support. And again, we appreciate Rob and his team for putting forth really incredible statistics. And it's important not only to show the number of kids who are helped, but really more importantly, it's the parents who have been able to go to work, the hours that they were able to increase, the contribution to the local economy, if there's a way to quantify that. And then also my challenge to you, Rob, and to this group is to really go back and highlight ways that you're engaging employers as you're looking to be self-sufficient, into encouraging them to start plans where parents can use like have pre-tax savings accounts so they can pay for their childcare portion that they pay for with those pre-tax dollars, and also have partnerships like the partnership with Synergy, where they have on-site childcare and they've provided the land and some supports there. So again, finding additional ways to include industry into Moab Community Childcare as you move forward and still support it with the grant money.
Thank you very much. That's and thank you for your offer to help refine this. I see you have a training session tomorrow, I guess, and so we'll have that the benefit of that as well. So at this point, it's clear that we believe this is a not only essential to the community but worthwhile project to include in our grant. Rather than vote now, I prefer we vote for the whole package and then we can go into more detail. So thank you for that, Colette. Thanks, Rob, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your stay. Thanks, Chris, for joining in and getting that conversation started. The next project is the request from the Moab Chamber of Commerce. And Lacey, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to Lacey.
Yep.
To talk us through this request.
Yeah, so this request is, first of all, let me just say, we have been working with the county for a while now to really figure out where the chamber can be of most value, both for the Economic Development Department and for our members. And we really just want to find this lane that is super supportive and runs parallel to all the goals that the county has, and that we can just be this bridge, I guess, between business and the government and figure out how to best support both. And so in those conversations, I had been working with August before, and I've worked extensively now with Forrest and with Sky to just kind of see what some of the needs are in the county. And we, after those conversations, there were a few ideas that came up. Most of them are included here, not all. But one of the biggest things was that we just really need a good idea of what our businesses need, right? So doing a needs assessment, we know that workforce is an issue. We know that childcare is an issue. We know that housing is an issue, all of those things, but it's not, there aren't numbers to it. It's not like, well, if you were fully staffed. So some of the things that I see is like, if you were fully staffed, you know, how many people would you have? How many do you have now? And just kind of really figuring out where our needs and our deficits are. So that's that subjective one, is just really doing a deep dive into what our businesses need to be healthy and to have this healthy economy. Some of the things that we would need to do as a chamber to make that happen is we would definitely, so right now we are staffed, we have 2 of us and we are both part-time. And we would need to increase that workforce either in time or getting a Vista, something like that. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. Also just it's really hard to get the attention of business because they are so busy. So advertising that is going to take, I think, some major efforts. So that's some of the money would go towards that for that program. And then we would use some surveys. We would do some focus groups and some individual interviews. I was actually, so I got this number, this 1,875 businesses. That is a lot of businesses. And once I got that number, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be a lot, but I'm excited for it. But I do think it's going to take kind of this multi-tiered approach and kind of an all hands on deck kind of approach to get that done. And we would really, we would love the support through this grant and of the Economic Development Board in doing that. The next thing would then be, once we've got these needs, some of our questions would be, what kind of education and training do you need? And so we came up with this. I worked with Colette a little bit as well. She is so versed in all things chamber and economics, and she had some great ideas of where to start there. But we want to be able to offer some monthly trainings that would be open to everybody. These would be like an hour to an hour and a half, just kind of tune-up type trainings, and then quarterly intensive trainings. And without saying for sure what those would be, because we want to see what comes back in this needs assessment. But there's some ideas in there of what those could be. I know I've talked to Brad Anderson about customer service trainings, sales, like upselling, that kind of thing, that we could focus at least one on. And then the last thing that I talked with the county about is the chamber's involvement in the business summit. It used to be that we did a little more. I know the last couple of years we haven't been quite as involved, but just workload wise, we would love to take some of that on. We would love to see it grow into a multi-day summit, and maybe even include some of these trainings, tack on to that as well. See if we could get some big names, some higher paid speakers down here. So I did in that budget, I believe it's been 30,000 that's been budgeted before we, but that hasn't been all spent. We put in, I think maybe it was missing from there, but we were thinking the 25 was the remainder there. Hoping to make it, to grow it a little bit. I'm after talking to Sky, I'm not sure if that number is right or not, but so there's maybe a little bit of wiggle room for you guys to discuss there. But yeah, we would love to, just continue to work on our partnership with the Economic Development Department in providing the best service that we can and the best value that we can for our businesses. I know it's not uncommon for these kinds of partnerships between counties and cities and chambers to do this kind of thing. So we thought maybe it would be a good fit for this grant.
Thanks, Lacey. Any questions from, yes, Jasmine?
Thank you, Lacey. I really enjoy that you guys want to participate with the summit and more with the trainings for businesses. My question, last time we talked about this specifically about giving the excess money to the chamber for the summit event. it seemed like maybe more of a partnership between the chamber and the SBDC. So is that something you plan to work into this? It seems like they should already have a lot of the information that you need to give you an idea of what trainings businesses really already need.
Yes, no, that's a good point. Yeah, we definitely want to work closely with SBDC. I know there's resources through like EDC and the World Trade Center and all of these kinds of things. So any resources that are already out there, we will definitely hit those first. So we're not reinventing the wheel, and work closely with Megan and our local SBDC here as well.
Melissa?
Hi, Lacey, am I muted? I'm good. Yep. I love this. And one of the things that you may want to consider, and I'm curious about Colette's feedback on this as well, is I hear consistently from a lot of the small business owners that I've talked about in similar contexts about getting finance training and finance support, because there are a lot of them that don't have, for example, 3-year financials if they were going to apply for the revolving loan fund to get some financing. Also, there may be grants that are available to them as well, but because they don't have consistent reporting and financials, they kind of go with a little bit more of the small business touch and go feely approach. They don't have the kind of financials that they need to get this additional layer of support. And I would love to see you guys maybe look at that for funding as well, and not only have the training available, but then maybe also find a local resource to be able to help them produce consistent financials on an ongoing basis. That's maybe something to look at as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I would actually love to, when we get into this process, do a focus group with this group as well, and just get ideas just like that from you guys also.
I believe USU,
Mary?
that is one of the goals of the USU department, is to help people, set up their books and financially and give them that kind of support. That when we did those grants, we discovered that was a real weakness.
Yeah.
So if we had a 2-tiered approach to it, it would even be
Right.
better.
And that's why I think that the chamber and the SBDC, that's such a big partnership that we plan on exploring further. The one problem I have seen when I talk to business owners that are clients is they don't necessarily feel like like the SBDC doesn't feel like a good resource for them that they feel comfortable going towards, because they just, I don't know if it's that we're not tied to Utah State, we're not like, they don't, but paying a membership to the chamber becomes an easy play for them of like, I can go get training from them because I'm a member. So I think having both sides of that, I push people towards the SBDC all the time. And so hoping that we can kind of have them loop in, and we have some local CPAs that I think would be willing, at least at a very discounted rate, come help do some trainings I know for a fact that we have some locally that would help with that stuff. So I think that's a huge avenue, and you're right that, Lisa, that I think that's why people don't go apply for loans. I don't think that's why they even know how to expand businesses, is they don't even operate their own books. They don't. They pay taxes based on kind of a willy-nilly number instead of actually having full-blown financial statements. Hopefully we can help with that education.
Yeah.
Could I jump in with a question when you have a second?
Please do.
Yeah, I guess I like this a lot, and I like the programming, and I think that we need to have more support for our small businesses. As a small business owner, I definitely know that we could use some of the trainings that you're, the types of subjects that you're covering there and you're offering. One question and sort of thought that I have is that, if we're supporting this type of work with public money, it seems important to me that it would be for all businesses, not just for chamber member businesses. And I don't know if that's the vision that you have, but I just wanted to sort of get your feedback about that and make sure that this is something that would be tailored towards and advertised to and open to the sort of the whole business community across Grand County.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I looked for those numbers to include all of the businesses. We don't have that many members by any means. But that would be the vision, is to do this, on an on a holistic level for sure.
Well, one thing that Chamber would also like when we're doing these is realizing that all of these trainings, for the most part, I would say at least 70 to 80% of them can be met by someone in the community. So we're helping two sides of the community there by doing that. And so that's why we want to do focus groups and make sure that we want to know what people are needing to learn and expand their knowledge base, but we also want to know who can provide some of that knowledge base, because we do want to keep that. We're not wanting to spend a whole bunch of money outside of our community when we know that there are experts right here.
Yeah. So two thoughts, Lacey. First of all, great outline of your plans moving forward. One is that we have a significant number of family-owned businesses in town. And that's almost a niche in terms of consulting with businesses, because they have, in some cases, they've mixed personal and business accounts, ownership, interlocking ownerships and things of that nature. So I would imagine USU or there is another university or three in the state might have a specialty in that, a specialization in family businesses.
Weirdly enough.
Pardon?
So I'm a SEPA, I don't know, so I'm a certified exit planning advisor.
Okay.
And we come across this a lot. And so that's one thing that we're exploring within the chamber. If we have the experts here that know how to deal with family ownership businesses, that they're commingling accounts and all of the things. So we do actually have that here, but people don't even know where to start.
Right.
And that is a huge avenue of a need.
Once again, the chamber is well ahead of me.
Well, and it's one of those things, but you don't even know where to start.
Exactly.
And so, and even, I mean, Lacey and I talk about this all the time, you know, we do have people, not just on our board, but people that are members, people that are non-members, that, you know, we have teachers and administrators and financial experts, and we have people that want to help, but people don't reach out to them because they don't know where to start.
Yeah, exactly.
So by providing for these trainings that's countywide and helping the county promote it, that's gonna just give us one more layer of, I think these trainings will end up being bigger than we anticipate.
Yeah.
I think people will sign up.
Oh, darn, big success. Yeah. And Chris, to your question, the contract that the chamber and the county agreed to required that any of the events and activities that they put on have to be open to anyone and not restricted to chamber members.
Thanks, Forrest, and thanks, Lacey, for the answer on that as well, and Shaylee, all of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. It appears that we're united in supporting the chamber's request. And a note that she put a $25,000 price tag on objective 3.
We did have one question, is that enough? One thing that we were talking about with Sky is we don't want to underfund this, especially with the summit.
Right.
If we expand, we did learn a lot from the county last year, that the summit having basically an event planner made it more effective and made it cost less, but it also gives us a little bit more freedom to get some of the higher priced speakers that may have a bigger draw, that then in turn does it more and more, brings other counties involved.
Great.
And do we turn it from 1.5 days to maybe 2.5 days? So it kind of helps that we can make it grow. So do we want to stick to the 25,000 since we've underspent that? Do we feel like that's enough funding? That's one question we've had for the board.
What would you and Lacey recommend?
Well, we talked today. Do we feel like 25 is a good mark? We were kind of throwing around 30, and then obviously we can always put it back into the grant money, like kind of what happened this last year, to be utilized for future years or whatever needs to happen with it. But we could get some pretty big name speakers that I think would have a really big draw if we had the money to spend.
Let's not underfund this. So that's my reaction. Yeah.
What's the total grant amount? Isn't it 200,000?
200K is the total.
So the total requests now are 201,000.
But we haven't gotten to the third one yet.
Exactly. So probably be a good idea to hear the third one before we.
I agree.
Yep, so we can have that discussion after we make a motion on the three packages.
I will say,
yes,
I spent the last 6 minutes, 7 minutes trying to find the exact number, but 25 sticks out in my head is what we spent last year.
That's what we have. Yeah.
Pretty sure that's
And it
It's
was
real
on the
close to that.
proposal originally, but we've kind of gone back and forth in emails going, what's the right number to put on this summit? It's whether it's 25 or 30.
This, it seems to me that what you all are thinking about is activities that are events that will drive people to act,
Attendance, yes.
to
absolutely.
attendance, membership, better communication among and between business people in the community.
Bettering their businesses, increasing the trainings we can do at
Exactly.
the summit.
Exactly. So I'm sorry, Colette, quickly, do you have a quick, you're already partnering with the chamber as you previously partnered with Rob. So any quick remarks?
Just wanted to echo what Chris had stated, that making sure that the contract states that the trainings will be open to all Grand County business owners, not just chamber members. I think that's an important piece. And also, I just think that this is a fabulous plan to get more training out to industry. And I would encourage you to diversify the training to, of course, tourism is your largest economic driver, but I would look at your second and third largest economic drivers and make sure, again, through the survey, that you're supporting additional industries as well, or cross-supporting industries with common topics. Like you said, financing and accounting, things like that, that can go across industries. But overall, I think it's fabulous. And I would just caution Lacey and her team to not sell yourselves short on the administrative fees, because we don't want to create more work for you and get work, for free out of the chamber. It's really stretching and expanding the capacity of the Grand County Economic Development team from my perspective, and just creating a larger team to accomplish more together.
I do have to say that was my one concern when I was reading this, is just because that was my concern, is that there was enough backing, administrative, but, on the data gathering step, because this is all sort of launching a new potential ongoing support. And I just wanted to make sure there was enough funding to make sure it was successful, so that it could continue. Just throw that out
So
there.
be thinking about what it might require to incorporate those costs into the total.
Well, I think this year is going to be a little bit of a learning game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
We might come back and be like, all right, this was way more successful than we thought, but we have this much more administrative cost than we anticipated. But I think this is also, much like the childcare, hopefully something that is a continued partnership with this grant.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, Colette. Kari, join the table. When we were distributing or doing final allocation of the TRT diversification funds, the board made a $221,500 investment in the Student Career Success Center, which will be at what used to be the Moab Free Health Clinic, and now is some other name, or same thing, same campus. And so again, we reached back to look at their proposal, their ideas for support to continue helping students refocus on their academics and the next steps in terms of employment opportunities and the like. And Colette, thank you for your initial feedback, which I've shared with Kari. So that was really helpful to inform this conversation here. So Kari, I think start with your overall, and then especially for Michael, who's the father of a sophomore. And Biga, who's the mother of a senior. Shaylee, are you a parent
Oh, yeah.
of a high schooler?
Oh, no, not yet.
Elementary.
We got middle school, for first year of middle school for the oldest.
Ooh.
A lot.
That's when your cat that's when your dog turns into a cat.
It's, yeah, maybe.
Okay, Kari.
Okay, so these were costs that I hadn't really thought about or anticipated. And now that we're moving into the space and getting things started, some things have come up. that we do need. And so that's what's included in here. And so there's 16 computers, and those would be for the students to complete the credit acquisition entities that they need in order to get some of their core credit and or work on the projects. Then the STAR 360 or Global Online Academy are 2 additional, and we would choose one or the other. They're additional personalized competency-based learning curricula instead of the general curricula that this school district already gets, which is called Edgenuity. So the students already have access to that. Edgenuity is not personalized and competency-based, and so some of the students can do it, but the Lexile level, which is the reading level necessary to be able to do it for our students, is the classes are much higher. So like I can't give 10th grade English credit to somebody who's reading at a 7th grade level. And so it would require a more personalized and competency-based learning system for them. In addition, we understand that this is more appropriate for some of our multi-language learners and other students. And then the technology and infrastructure, definitely that one kind of caught me by surprise in that we have to pull wire, which is interesting. So anyway, that was a little bit more of an expense than I expected. Moving along, I put furniture, fixtures, and equipment and tables, desks, chairs. I actually have collected quite a bit from traditional tables, desks, and chairs like we're seeing here from other entities throughout the district that are actually size appropriate, not for a kindergartner, you know, so we have that. It's sort of thinking about alternative seating or sort of like making this space for these guys, not like we come in and it's like, yeah, we matter like this. I can tell we matter. I see the dust on the furniture or what, you know, but sort of having some of those wobbly seats or those places where those kids who, you know, kind of need it, have a little bit of alternative seating. So some of the furniture, it says desk, tables, and chairs, but I should have really said collaborative spaces and alternative furniture and whatever, you know, those kind of things. Because yes, we have basic tables, desks, and chairs, and they're dirty, but we can wipe the dust off and it will be okay. And then when we go down to the next couple of items and thinking about what that economic development and what we're trying to do for our students, interview clothing came to mind. So just thinking about male and female dress clothes that we can have just like a closet that they can pick from. And it sort of builds upon itself because then it's adding to the life skills. We don't have a washer and dryer in there, but we'll find a way to wash and dry the clothes and then have an iron and an ironing board. Like these are all the things that are life skills for people. And, you know, like you want to show up for a job and dress for success. And so we're just trying to teach them, like, yeah, it's a little bit smart, like mommy-ish, you know, but I think some of what the kids need is sort of like somebody to sort of bring them on, like, right, you know, teach them that this is how you act, or this is how you dress for an interview, and, you know. And then the portable, so one of my ideas for the project-based learning portion of the school curriculum is to have them for us to buy a portable school store that's housed at the high school. And then for the students who are part of the Student Career and Success Center, have partnerships with the teachers at the high school who have product-based classes like the CNC machine, which is brand new in the wood shop, the ceramics room, you know, like, so kids, they're looking at what students can produce and then housing the school store that they're running and they're figuring out, and they're writing a blog, maybe they're selling their stuff online, like all of that business model, I don't want to dictate. I want that to inherently come from the students and what they want it to look like. The sort of ground zero with it is, do we have a space to work out of in the high school? And so the final thing was just I found online a really cool portable school store, not one that can serve food, because you have to be able to wash your hands and all these other food grade things that we're not going to do. It's just going to be products that they create And they may be part of creating it too, you know. So that's what's in the proposal. And then Colette had some feedback. So I had a whole bunch of other ideas that weren't in the proposal.
So maybe we
And you can
could,
time me, because I can talk forever.
I'll get up my,
Timer.
yeah.
Right.
Colette, can you just give us a quick summary of what you saw and where you think it could be strengthened? Because Kari has some ideas.
For sure. So my initial feedback was that this is clearly a program that's a great resource for the community and a needed resource. However, my questions were that there are parts of this proposal that have the responsibility that should fall on the school district and the State Department of Education for computers, desks, and really education supplies that are typically provided by the school district. And my feedback was to tweak the grant proposal to serve students plus community members and purchase equipment that serves both adult learners and beyond the business community, and have it be a space where workforce development can happen. If you were talking more about proposing an innovation center or a makerspace project where workforce training and small business development along with entrepreneurship and innovation can happen, then that's an easily fundable project. And I can see where there would be overlap and you could accomplish some of the same objectives. However, my question is always that we do need to demonstrate if you're pushing the envelope where it's really an education service or a social service, showing that you've exhausted all resources. So what has the school district paid for? Have Carl Perkins funds been exhausted? Have all Utah adult education grants and funding been exhausted? And then asking for a reasonable amount that is above and beyond what Carl Perkins and adult education will pay for. Or again, retitling the project and looking at creating more of an innovation center and co-working space where some of this adult learning can happen.
Okay.
Sharon, were you going to?
I was gonna just ask Kari though, is that even, my understanding of this program is to actually get non-traditional learners to get their GEDs, correct? And so Colette, is it possible to, I don't know, maybe expand, like, because I know we have quite a few adults in our community that haven't received their high school diploma. I mean, Kari, is that something you guys could take on, or is that just like too much to start?
So we're right now tasked with 9th through 12th grade. We can age appropriate out at 19. So anybody 19 and above would need to go to Trish in adult ed.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So have we exhausted like the education grants?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I can tell you with Carl Perkins, we're just coming into that grant cycle. So I will apply for Carl Perkins with that grant cycle, potentially for funding the program for next school year. So yes, this year Carl Perkins funds have been exhausted and adult ed funds are exhausted. But speaking to your point of sort of looking at it from a different lens, I don't know if this matters, but when I was listening to Lacey talk, I was thinking, I don't know if this is possible, but for our needs assessment, can we train our students at SCSC to help with some of these personal interviews for the 875 businesses in town that we want to get the needs assessment from? And so I know that doesn't solve the problem of what we're asking for, but these are the types of partnerships that we're considering working on as we move forward. And is that enough of a tweak?
I think that's a great idea. One question I have for Colette real quick on this is, if we submit this, do we potentially lose the opportunity of this portion of the grant because they're saying the same thing she is?
Yeah.
So basically, I can tell you in its current form, we would kick it back. So this will not pass my state grants manager, James Dixon. And it's for the reasons that I've stated. These are activities that are the responsibility of the school district, of adult education. There's a state adult education program, and career and technical education has opportunities within the state. And so while there are some supports that we can give, because, you know, there is some overlap, you know, our funding typically is to build workforce capacity, is to provide infrastructure for economic development. And so we really have to have a strong ROI, and specifically for the high amount that has been proposed. I can tell you right now that it wouldn't pass James Dixon, and it would be kicked back to the county for an additional proposal. We wouldn't say, oh, you don't get your 200,000. We want to make sure that you get that money, but we would just ask you for a different project.
Well, and so one of the reasons we liked this project in the past was because we have so few kids making it to graduation. So therefore we have less employees going into our workforce for economic development. So this program that the CARI has been working on is to help prepare our 9 through 12 students so that they do graduate high school, so that we do have more people entering the workforce. Like, there is a line to our economic development from this. So is that something that maybe Colette and you can work on to make this? Because I think this is such an important area for our economic development. But if we submit, I mean, how do we make this fit our mold?
So,
Michael.
So it sounds to me like what Colette was saying is that if it was more of a joint use application where the computers would be used in, say, the evening for business development, if chamber taught classes or if somebody taught classes and the space was open and those could also be used for that, it would have more of a chance of being approved. Does that sound right, Colette, or is that still a long shot?
So, you know, again, we can, just because, I mean, I've been on both sides. I used to be over career and technical education. My mom was over an adult education program, so I know these programs deeply. And that was my life for 18 years. And so I know exactly the population that you're trying to support, and I do understand the needs. But like I said, for this particular pot of money, we need to not try and fit a round peg in a square hole. It needs to be more of a direct fit. And yes, we can absolutely schedule some time to rework the proposal, to find some parts that will fit for this rural economic development funding. Again, something more like a co-working space, workforce training development center, innovation center, that is more of a fit that would have overlap between adult and older teens to get some training. But again, we don't want to supplement what Department of Workforce Services should be doing, the school district should be doing, or adult education should be doing. We want to support it, but we don't want to supplement it.
So
if that makes sense.
Potentially use what you want to create with the chamber training night is. They're going to need a training space. They're going to need some access. Is there a way for us to partner with you to create this space that during the day might be for, you know, you kind of same thing. Like we as a chamber, we can't just cater to our chamber members. Like, can we partner together to use this funding to create a training space?
It can absolutely be a joint space.
What do you think?
Yeah, when Trish's, when students come to see Trish, do they have a place to go work there? Does she have space for them to work, or do they just go to their homes?
I think they work there.
Okay,
Her space is very small.
but this could also
This could also
serve them.
Remind me when we have to have this submitted.
The latest decision time for the commission is September 19th.
Oh, 19, oh,
Okay, so we could maybe get together next week, Lori, and
Yes.
try to rework this and get send an email out and see what everyone thinks.
Okay, that sounds great. Could we get a vote at this board though, in time?
Well, we have part of it funded, right? So we can vote on part of the funding. And
I guess we would just need a recommendation from this board, this meeting.
Colette, is it the whole thing, or is it just the furniture, the furniture and the curriculum, or is it everything involved in the request?
Yeah, it's everything. It really is everything. And again, you would need to show data that, you know, it was mentioned earlier, we've got kids who are not finishing school. So
Right.
is it the focus to keep kids in school and get workforce training, or is it to help people who've left school? And again, you've got to show a strong data showing that people are leaving school and therefore they are not employable. But if people are leaving school and they're employable, it's less of an argument, if that makes sense, economic argument. But like I said, I'm confident, like I want to support you, and I'm confident if we had some time together, we
Yeah.
could rework this proposal to fit some needs. But definitely in its current state, it would not pass through our grants director.
Thanks. Karen has a question.
yeah, and Kari, I believe I'm not throwing you under the bus at all, but as a board, would it behoove us to potentially look at you guys, what was the space, the co-working space that is being developed at the old USU campus? I mean, that seems like the perfect slot for this sort of funding that the state could get behind.
or to increase our loan fund that we've already been adding to.
Yeah. So that was a good question, Karen. I don't know if you heard Shaylee added to that. We could also put more money into the loan fund that we established a couple of months ago, or that we built on a couple of months ago. Colette, I have a couple questions about the ROI. Is that primarily activity measures over the course of 1 year? Or for something like the proposal to help students get through school, non-traditional, non-conventional students, get their degree and get some workforce training in this program? You know, the measurements have to be a couple of years out. So what specifically would James be looking for in terms of an ROI for any of these?
Yeah, so it depends on the program. We know that sometimes it's hard to show the benefits in a short 1 year grant cycle. However, for instance, if we have national data that and very high quality data that high school students who complete internships in their senior year are more likely to stay employed and have a higher retention rate, and it serves this particular type of industry, then you can rely on some of that data. So again, if this was like a program supporting internships and it directly placed high school students into businesses, and this grant paid for some administrative fees, that is something that, again, we could support, because it would show that it's helping students, but it's also helping the business community, if that makes sense.
Michael?
Yeah, so I met with Jeremy Spalding yesterday, and he seemed to have a program that he was developing, trying to hatch, that sounded just like that, where students could work in local shops, but stay in school. And there was some incentives. I don't know how the whole program worked, but it sounds more like what Colette was just talking about. Are you
So
aware of
Colette, we
that?
do have an internship work-based learning program, and the idea,
Keep
that's my
talking.
timer, okay.
Keep talking.
The
I'm still watching
idea
the clock.
behind the Student Career and Success Center, and I know I didn't share the whole proposal with you because it's fairly lengthy, but our graduation rate is 74.3%. So the graduation rate for CTE students who do participate in CTE courses and internships, which every student of ours at Grand County High School graduates with a pathway is 86%. So there is a direct correlation between career acquisition and increased graduation rate. And so our idea behind the school is twofold: increased graduation rate and student career acquisition. So one of the ideas potentially would be stipends for students as interns. Would that be something that would be supported? Or no?
Not unless it showed that it had a direct impact on industry. So if you had an industry that was lacking workforce and
Yeah.
was losing money because of workforce, and some of these efforts help support that industry to grow or sustain themselves, then that is a perspective that we could work with. But we would, again, have to be very specific
Yeah, okay.
and show a need, demonstrate the need.
Okay, so I have a procedural question. Maybe this is for you, Quinn, or maybe Sky has the answer. We've got a enthusiasm about the goal that they're trying to accomplish with the Student Career Success Center, but we don't have all of the details laid out yet. But Colette and Kari and others can be involved in that conversation for looking at partners to help us. Can we act on this as a concept without dollar amounts to it at this point, or with a targeted dollar amount that doesn't have specific line items in it? Because it would have to be
Come back with a
refined.
strong proposal.
It would have to be refined before it goes to the commission, for sure.
So we can do that in like the next couple days. Honey, Colette is so kind and helpful.
Yeah.
When's the next meeting?
Well, we don't have a meeting before the September 19th commission meeting, which is the date on which the commission would have to approve the grant proposal. There could be a special meeting. We could have a work group that convenes to refine this.
I can be on a special meeting next week if necessary.
You're not going to be in Europe again?
Just one time. I've only been there once. I'm sorry.
Well, what could you do? I mean, we would be doing this at our second meeting in September, so you have more of it. We don't have.
I think it's
We don't.
I think it's strategically for this meeting, since it needs to come from their recommendation, can they just have, we want to allocate XYZ money to this program that isn't totally dialed in yet. Can they, is that enough, I guess? From, and then the
Have a
proposals.
special meeting next week. Or
I don't know.
the week after.
I guess, do we need to have a special meeting or is that enough?
My suggestion would be that you have a special meeting before you allocate funding, simply because if you allocate funding and then submit something that won't pass through James Dixon, then it actually has to be kicked back and has to go back to your commission. And it could take quite a bit of time and effort. And just, I mean, it's not like a completely negative mark on the department, but it would save face a bit with your commission probably. So.
I think it's just the transparency. I mean,
When I think this stuff is important enough that it's okay that it takes a little extra tweaking here and there.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, obviously, best practice is to submit a final product to the commission. This is our.
Oh,
recommendation.
absolutely.
We suggest these exact dollar amounts get approved for this grant. There's workarounds. Approve 2 with the remainder going to the third, but again, that's up to you guys as an advisory board. The best practice is always to have a final
Right.
product.
And I guess I was not as clear as I could have been. My intention was that my goal was that we approve the 3 projects. We've got specific dollar amounts for 2 of the 3. But we could have a special session to approve the dollar amounts, the line items in the other session, in the special session. And then all 3 proposals would go as one packet to the commission. that make sense?
And I'm in favor of that.
I'm,
3 weeks before that commission meeting.
So it gives us some time to rework the project, come together for a special meeting before we're submitting it.
Yeah. Karen, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, Forrest, I'm just concerned, I mean, when I'm looking at the cost of the line items, I mean, and with Colette's suggestion, I don't see where we're gonna come close to hitting this budget number. And even if, there's major retweaking, and it turns into an innovation or a direct line to students getting hired. I mean, I see that number is considerably lower. Are we opposed to having the Community Resource Center submit a proposal? Because that, again, that talk about innovation and space for economic development. And I mean, those hit all the marks without trying to, like Colette said, put a round hole in a square peg.
Yeah.
I've been struggling with the Community Resource Center only because I don't feel like we have extreme clarity and transparency on how well it's being run. And so that's been one of my big concerns of that project. I think it's a phenomenal concept. I think it's a great project. I think it could do this community so much good, but the loss in leadership that has happened has made it so that it does feel like there's some scrambling. And are we taking precious grant money and giving it to someone that we can't yet fully decide if they're going to be an effective project?
Karen?
And that's good, Shaylee, because I don't know I don't have any backstory. I just, looking at the concepts that were presented to us, it seemed great. I'm just concerned that if this is going to get kicked back, and let's use our time wisely,
Right. I'd rather go one of two directions. I'd rather either put more money in our revolving loan fund, like we've already put some backing behind that, or I think maybe leapfrog onto the chamber's already training proposal and work on creating some training spaces that is gonna allow us to have this innovation area that we could even potentially partner with the community center to create that for the chamber and be able to say, okay, here is the actual training center for business owners.
Yeah.
For economic development that has computers, that has some different things. I think that would be a great lead in, that it could potentially support what Kari's doing, but at the head of this project is really just us creating a development center for our economy.
You also have 2 proposals on the table that could easily take up the 200,000.
Right, exactly. Like
So,
Lacey mentioned, she sent me a text that said 95,000 gives those 3 projects administrative support. If we can at least get 95,000 for the 3, but could we potentially?
So that increases the total request to 95. Okay. Lots of thoughts going on. So.
I have
sorry. Go ahead.
I have a thought/question is kind of following up on what Shaylee had said. And I'm not suggesting that this is the direction that we go in. I'm just saying that we've heard consistently from both SBDC, also from businesses in the community, that co-working spaces, commissary kitchen space, maker space is such a huge need and is so under available in the community that it really is hampering business. And I think it might be worthwhile to say, and I agree with Shaylee's comments too about management as well. The Community Resource Center is space for lease. So to be able to say, we would support the chamber in being able to facilitate, what do those co-working spaces need to look like, or what does SBDC have in terms of feedback, maker space available, whatever, if the chamber would be willing to manage the leasing of that space and the furnishing of that space or the approach to that space. I'm not suggesting that we do it, but it is a huge community need. And we do get that feedback quite often that those spaces aren't available. So maybe having, Shaylee, like you suggested, chamber management, but then the space is leased from the Community Resource Center negates some of the concern about management.
I love that, Melissa. Yeah.
Just full disclosure, Sky and I met with Kate and Danette, so interim executive director and board chair, about the resource center. As Melissa said, it's basically a not-for-profit real estate development project. Most of the offices in the building, the west building, which is where the student center is going to be, are leased, year-long leases to I think a dozen or so not-for-profit organizations. So that seems to be an ideal place. It's easy access for a lot of people. It's relatively easy for kids from the high school. But there are some logistical issues that need to be sorted out in terms of how to use that space with the chamber, with the schools, et cetera. My recommendation at this point, just putting this out as a recommendation and not a motion, is that we approve the two requests that we have, the 95,000 and the 50,000 at this point, approve them moving forward, and that we have a special session in whatever length of time it takes for these parties to get together and figure out how they could work together. And if we come up with something viable and something that achieves the Colette seal of approval, then in the special session, we vote to send the whole package to the commission.
And I would say if we decide that we cannot find something else,
The alternative
the
is to,
alternative, we'll come up with a special meeting, or we send it to the loan fund.
at the special meeting, you would
We'll
make
make
that
that decision,
decision. Yeah. Does that make sense to everybody, Chris, Melissa?
Does a motion need to happen for us to move forward?
Yes.
So
yeah.
I will make a motion to agree with that we're gonna approve the 50 for the childcare, 95 for the chamber, and that we are going to have a special meeting prior to the 19th in order to hash out what the remaining 55,000 can be used for, and hopefully get Colette's seal of approval.
And then, so moved.
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
It's long.
I second.
Thanks, Melissa.
Discussion?
Is
No,
discussion?
Yes,
Karen?
just quickly, I guess I'm not clear as to what the $95,000 is gonna be used for the chamber.
It's the 80,000 that they've requested, plus an additional 15,000 to support with administrative support for all of the programming they're going to be doing. Is that correct?
Correct. So,
Lacey?
so the
Sure,
big concern of Sky was what she brought up a minute ago, was that if we funded this, would it be basically cutting the knees off of the chamber because we're gonna fund the administrative costs to make it happen? So I was asking Lacey, what do we need to cover the administrative costs to make these projects happen? And she said a full 95,000 would cover all administrative costs. So that would be paying for Lacey and Emily's time in order to administer the trainings and the summit, that it wouldn't be the chamber funding all those hours.
Or at least help.
Or at least it would help. It wouldn't fully fund it, but it would help immensely.
Sorry, can I also, so I also just within that had already included that 5,000 for the business summit increase as well. Just I'm a little worried about that number. So yeah, just so to be clear.
Answer your question, Karen?
It sure does. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Okay. Any,
Motion and a second.
we have your motion.
Melissa
Melissa
seconded it.
seconded. So we've had discussion, questions. All in favor of that motion, raise your hand or smile or. Okay. Yeah. Oh,
Can I smile too?
Karen gets the I'm all in for it and more award. Okay. Thank you all. That's a lengthy conversation. We need to move into the next topic.
Can I ask real quick?
Yes.
So can we get like a rough guesstimate of how long we think it'll take for us? Can we have something prepared by the first week of September to do a special meeting? If we can get it on a rough
You're talking, yeah, you're talking.
for the special meeting. Can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I need to
Like-
find out what Colette's time is.
Yeah, Colette, do you think that you have availability for us in the next 2 weeks that you can work on this with us?
I do, I have availability on September 1st. And I would have availability, I have quite a bit of availability on the 4th, 5th and 6th at this point.
So we'd aim for the 5th or 6th.
Yeah, 4th is Labor Day.
Yeah.
6th is,
Yeah.
She's gonna be working with you before the.
no,
meeting.
6th would be the meeting, so maybe we can just, she's extremely responsive to emails, so I feel like a lot of this discussion can happen via email. If we need a couple live phone calls, we can determine that with Colette's schedule. But does the 6th work for a special meeting?
So if you went on the 6th, I would need to do the morning of the 6th. If you went on the 5th, I have basically all day open at this point.
Isn't that Labor Day?
No, 4th is Labor Day. I can do 5th, if everyone.
Afternoon of the 5th, Tuesday, the 5th.
Oh, that's a commission meeting.
That's
I'm
commission.
sorry.
We can't do the
Duh.
5th.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do the morning of the 6th.
You could do it someplace else. You don't have to be here.
That's true, we could.
Although we have to have the owl
We have it recorded.
over in economic development.
Correct.
Okay,
We could do it at the same time.
yeah, we can do it over there.
Okay, I can do the 5th afternoon.
Okay,
Cool. Sorry, you can move ahead. then.
may I?
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam
Sorry.
Madam
Just wanted to
Secretary.
get that one in for my schedule.
The,
So much to say.
so,
So much to say.
so, it's time to move to the next topic. And the topic is, okay, we've struggled through this. It's time to start fleshing out ideas.
And we're not done with this, but we've got a good headway on this.
Exactly. We
Next
finished,
year, we're gonna be so far ahead of the
we
ball.
finished
Oh, yeah.
it for
Yes, we
today.
will.
We finished it for today. Kari, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. And before this meeting, Sky and I met with Michael, give him some background on what the county and the city did last year. We have until early October for the commission to approve the grant, which has to be submitted on the 17th of November. So this is a preliminary conversation, put some ideas out. That's all we're talking about. And Michael listened to us talk a little bit about the city's success at the last meeting. Vika, would you like something to say? Would you like to say something about the next grant opportunity?
I'd love to listen a little bit and know exactly what you're talking about before I chime in, but
Okay.
thank you for giving me
Okay.
that platform.
Okay.
Thank you.
Melissa, do you still have your hand raised, or is it raised again?
Oh, I don't know if that's old.
Okay. Okay. Where do we go from here? How about if we take just a quick interlude and ask Quinn to update everybody on the search for an executive, for a director of the Economic Development Department?
How is that going?
Happy to. It's going well. We've had a lot of applicants. One of the big challenges that we face in local government, that Mike is well aware of at this point, is housing. Oftentimes we'll get candidates from far away. They seem like fantastic candidates. And as soon as they look at the real estate market or they browse Zillow home prices in Moab, they decline our offer. We haven't gotten to that point yet, though. We have started interviews. We started interviews this morning. And we'll be continuing interviews tomorrow and then perhaps even into the middle of next week. And then we'll decide whether to either make an offer on some of the applicants that we have right now or continue to keep it open. So things are progressing quite quickly and well.
Great.
At this point.
It's great that there's so many applicants.
I'm sorry?
It's great that there's so many applicants.
Yes.
And we can have to extend the period. Sometimes we have to do that. We don't get big foot fly.
Right, okay. Colette, maybe you could give all of us a brief refresher on the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. Sky and I briefed Michael a little while ago, but you might have to correct us. So if you would do that briefly.
Sounds great. Thank you. Yes, the Rural Communities Grant is what previously was known as Part B money, if you've been around for a while. And this is a competitive grant. It's highly competitive. And last year we had about double the number of requests as we had money. And this year we expect that to even, go up even more. And they have increased the pot a little bit. I want to say this year we're at $12 million. And for community projects, this grant is open to cities, counties, and the legislature changed the rules to also include AOGs. The only caveat with the AOGs applying is that they have to get approval on the project that they apply for through every county in their region. And so we don't expect to see a high number of AOG applications this year. But this is money above and beyond your rural county grant. You can apply for up to $600,000. We only had one $600,000 award last year. They are rare. And most of the awards were between $200,000 to $300,000. And so I would say this is an opportunity for one-time projects or for continuing projects. And, something like a commissary kitchen or a co-working space was mentioned. I would just advise you with whatever project you decide to go for, from your perspective, is that you coordinate with your cities within the county so you're not overlapping, and that you're maybe even coordinating efforts to maximize funding, and also to look at the sustainability of the project. I love commissary kitchens. I think they're great. You have a great food truck scene there in Moab and Grand County. However, one-time money could build out a kitchen, but it doesn't sustain the staffing for the kitchen and the maintenance and repairs that need to happen, and the administrative fees for projects like that. So I would say make sure that your project is sustainable, or that it's a one and done type of project that you're requesting. We've had everything from industrial park improvements, which included infrastructure, roads, getting utilities to a site, to housing projects. There's just really a wide variety, training and workforce development. And so I would say be creative. And I'm here to act as your guide, James Dixon, as well. And we have a little bit of time, but not a lot of time. We can't wait till the last minute, because I'll have, I serve 7 counties, and within those counties, we may have up to 10 or 15 communities. So could be over 100 communities just for my service area that are applying. And so we want to be proactive and work on this as quickly as possible. And I'd say dream big.
Colette, what was the secret sauce for the $600,000 project last year?
So they had, and I can tell you, the community that got the 600,000 was Hilldale, Utah, right on the Arizona border. And they used their money for a co-working and innovation center with a full maker space, and also office spaces that could be rented on a short-term basis, co-working space. And they also put in a little tourism visitor center. So it was a multi-use project. They had an existing building that they were renovating, and then hiring staff for the administrative part of the little visitor center, and also the coordination of the co-working and innovation space, and to teach classes. And they've done wonderful. I was just with their director this morning, and really what it was is they could demonstrate the need, and they also had matching funding in the form of an existing building and some additional community funding that they were using. And then they had partnerships. They had partnerships with Utah Tech University for business counseling, similar to the Small Business Development Center, partnerships with the Office of Tourism for Washington County. And so they could show that, and then they also had a sustainability plan that it really gave confidence to the committee that decides the grants, that this $600,000 would be, it's a kind of a one-time fund or one-time project to get them off the ground, and then the community would take it from there.
Shaylee.
So I submitted something to this guy, and this is a little self-serving. I'm the chairman of the board of Wabi Sabi. I don't know if our board knows how much Wabi Sabi does for the underprivileged part of our community. It's hundreds of $1,000s every year that they give in vouchers for clothing and helping the low income housing, low income families. There's a good chance the doors may close if they don't find a permanent home. And that is that's a need that our community, like if we lose it, I'm not really sure who will fill it. I do think that it is a phenomenal project that they partner with every nonprofit. They are a huge component of, they do like the Thanksgiving dinner every year. They are a huge part of this community that if they don't find a permanent home, they do have currently more than $400,000 of matching funds to put towards it. They have hired a fundraiser to try to help with this fundraising, but they probably need closer to, you're looking at $1 million for land at least, plus the building. So that is one project I just really want to put into all of our ears of. This would be a one-time funding. It can sustain itself, Wabi Sabi, once it has a home. But I do think if we lose Wabi Sabi in our community, that's gonna be a need that does not get fulfilled anywhere else. So we could put together a really strong proposal. I know that we're using Mighty Penguins. We referred to them by CFI. They're a phenomenal firm in Salt Lake that is helping with like feasibility studies and everything. But I know that they could help us put together a really strong proposal for this grant if it's something that the board would even entertain. But I don't want that to even be a focus for them if our board is not even like, that doesn't even fit in this realm. And that's probably a great question for you, Colette, is like, would it fit here with how much they're involved in the community?
So again, the first thing I always say is, what is the return on investment? And are we looking at a social service program? Are we looking at an economic development program? And it always needs to be heavy on the economic development side, even if it has social service elements. It really needs to be heavy on that economic development side. My knee-jerk reaction is that if it's a workforce training center, something like Deseret Industries or Goodwill that helps train people, and
it's a Goodwill, basically.
Yeah. So if it's essentially just a nonprofit, that would be something that I would look at other grant funds for. This would not be a good fit. It does have to have a strong economic impact.
So it's a thrift store. Do you feel like I should go down this avenue?
I wouldn't, unless it has a strong like workforce training element and you have numbers and some successes. It just, quite frankly, it wouldn't be worth your time because we have really strong economic proposals, and I'm just afraid it wouldn't make it past the first round and be worth your effort.
Okay. I'm ready to chime in now, can I?
I'm ready.
Yes, thank you, Colette.
Thanks, Colette. This also relates to you, and a personal level here as well. Wondering, as the film commissioner as part of the economic development department, I was actually writing you an email, but I have this forum now. Next year is the 75th anniversary of the longest ongoing film commission in the world, which I happen to be the film commissioner for. And so I have lots of ideas in my head of things to bring to this community to help celebrate that. I also know that it's 100 years of filming in the state of Utah as a whole. And I'm wondering if there's something related to that as a government, as a person who works for Grant County, whether it's something that could be applied for, to be able to find the funding so that I could potentially have administrative help to put together some of my huge ideas that I have to celebrate this. I mean, I don't even want to begin with the plaques that I want on Main Street of movies that were filmed in the area, the carnival I want to put on, the scavenger hunt. I mean, I have lots of ideas that I can damper down. Right now, I have nothing. So I just want to throw that out there and see if that's something that would be amenable to a grant like this too.
Yeah. So basically, the money can't pay for a party, but if it had a strong economic driver, so if your party was going to bring in 30,000 people over one weekend and fill every hotel, RV park, and restaurant in the area, then you could put in for a grant. Again, it has to be something, just like I see your vision. I know, like having the film memorabilia on Main Street and, honoring the area and the film history permanently. I think that's a great project. But for this, it has to have that return on investment. And so again, if you could prove that this celebration would have a strong return on investment, then it could be a possible project.
Thanks.
So I think tying together one thing that may be worth considering, based on what you just said, but then also what's been presented by the Arts Council, is they're also looking for support. I feel like with Moab, economic diversification, we have travel and tourism already. And so we look at economic diversification as non-tourism. But I also think that within tourism, there are things that we could be doing and should be doing to put eggs in additional tourism baskets. So we have that outdoor recreation. People come, they off-road, they hike, they do whatever. But we really don't have that arts pool or the film pool or whatever. Maybe, between the Arts Council and between Film Commission, there's something that we could do to make that like an ongoing. Is there an annual festival that people can start anticipating where we bring together film and art to bring in new people to the area, maybe during the shoulder seasons, either a little bit later in the fall or a little bit earlier in the spring? And I could really see us putting together a strong proposal that way. And then Shaylee, based on what you were saying, also, there are a couple of business examples that I'm thinking of specific to LA where they're using those centers where they're taking in furniture, they're taking in clothing, they're taking in some of these things, and they're dyeing and they're training and they're turning those into more of a commercial outfit. There are also some things that we could explore that way as well. I'm almost wondering if this wouldn't be something that we would want to take a special meeting to kind of brainstorm on how we do these things, because like I said, being between you and the Arts Council, there's some overlap there about what they're trying to get as well, that we could really look at this as expanding the tourism season and doing a lot of good economic development that way as well.
You're right on target.
Shaking my head, you can't see it.
We'll have some lunches. Really good at having lunch.
Kane County added a balloon festival in February. It sounds crazy to do a festival in February because sometimes it snows, sometimes it doesn't, but it's taken off and it's a huge economic driver at the beginning of the tourist season. And so like Elisa said, if you can find something like that shoulder season economic driver can totally justify a film festival, a guerrilla filmmaking competition, or an old Hollywood celebration that happens every year. Whatever spin you want to put on that. Another program that we have done in the past and supported is we used to hold in Southern Utah a program called the Business of Art. And so basically artists from all over the state would come to Southern Utah and go to a conference and learn business principles surrounding artists and help them be successful small business owners. And Utah Tech, when their director of the museum left, their art museum left about a year or 2 years ago, they dropped the program. And so something like that, again, it integrates the art community and the business community, and it's an economic driver because it's bringing people to come eat in the restaurants, stay in the hotels. So again, I think be really creative with your arts community, with your film community. I think you can get there.
That's great. I do put on short turnaround film competitions that do bring in people. I didn't realize that that was something that was grant related, so that will just expand that thought a little further too. Thank you, Colette.
Thanks, Colette. Thanks, Melissa, for your comments there. We've got so many great thinkers on this group. It's wonderful. Now the challenge is for them to get together and come up with something.
Some proposals.
Some proposals. So we've reached the end of our agenda. And
Forrest, can I ask one
yes,
question?
Please.
This is actually probably for Karen, if she's still around and able to do it, and if we have a moment. But one of the other ideas we've thrown out there in relation to this Rural Communities Opportunity Grant is strengthening our downtown and our sort of core business district. And I know there was some in the paperwork for today's meeting, some info that Karen had submitted. And I just wanted to see if she could give us an update on sort of where that stands and what's needed to help develop a proposal in that direction as well.
Yeah, so it sounded like Forrest and Sky, you were taking that to the city and had discussions, or was I wrong in thinking that?
We provided Michael the information after we met. So he had some good questions about that. So go ahead, take some time, 5 minutes to explain to everybody what you had sent, and then we can make that a topic for that special meeting.
Okay, yeah, so, and Colette, again, it makes me a little nervous when we talk about schools or, some of the more social programs. And I came up with an idea for, trying to revamp or actually really make our downtown safe. I took a graduate classes this spring at the University of Utah, and my Keystone project was downtown Moab. And just some data, if you guys are interested in knowing, but like in the last 10 years, we've had 637 crashes in a 6.5 mile span in downtown. So from the Colorado River Bridge up to the Shell gas station, we've had 7 fatalities, 17 serious injuries where people have been paralyzed, and 13.5% of those accidents are from commercial motor vehicles. So basically it's about 65 crashes a year. And there's so many studies that, your downtown spaces create, if they're not car focused, and traffic isn't your number one priority, that they're more economically productive than any other style of development. Walkable streets encourage business activity and generate greater tax revenue per acre and have a greater return than any investment in a city. And so there's a lot of ways you can go, and I don't know what would be acceptable, but some of the images that I sent to the group, and Colette, I don't think you were on it, but I can forward it to you. But it's larger sidewalks and bump outs, crosswalks with signals, just to make our downtown feel safer and be safer. Adding trees in our new, basically the new Autobahn that we have coming into town from the Colorado River Bridge into our central business district. It's all, it's very barren, and there's a lot of visual cues, and I know the county has been trying to figure out how to slow traffic down. And you really have to almost blame the built environment, because you can have, and we have 7 different speed limits in a matter of 6 miles. And so just, you know, I don't know if everyone knows this, but UDOT actually owns our main street. So there's a small, you know, there's limitations, but they really do want to work with the local community that they're getting their, you know, truck traffic through. And I don't think we have been cohesive in really saying that, hey, we want to slow our traffic down downtown, because you can't even hold a conversation on Main Street. You know, I mean, it really is a difficult, because there's, you know, it's our throughput. But so there is, you know, that runs the gamut. It could be very expensive. And again, you know, doing enhancements like, you know, benches, but they could be art benches. You know, I mean, now I'm sort of thinking like, oh, can we somehow gain some traction with our, you know, our art community as well? So I don't know, Colette, is that an option to throw out a project like that?
Yeah, it definitely is. So I'm gonna drop a gentleman, his name's Roger Brooks. He's a consultant. You may have heard from him before. The state of Utah hired him for destination and development. And he talks about all of those things, about how a slower Main Street can help enhance your local retail shops and restaurants and things like that. I'll drop that in the chat. And so there's a lot of data that supports it. And again, you may take a piece of this money and to go towards a study in connection with UDOT to have an overall plan or proposal, because again, it would be a project beyond the scope of this money, but just the planning process is important to get it started. And then you could also take a portion of the money and do those, you know, implement those things on Main Street that help support a more walkable and aesthetically pleasing walkable area. So benches, planters, you know, allowing for sidewalk repairs, like you say, so they're maybe a little bit wider in some area, or if they're uneven or something like that. So yes, because again, you can prove economically that if you keep more people walking on Main Street, they're going to stop and have a drink, of whether they're drinking whiskey or coffee, they're going to slow down and have a drink. They're going to shop in the retail shops. They're going to stop and eat at a cafe. And so those are things that you can absolutely tie economically.
I want to make, this is Mary McGann, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So for something like this, you think to begin with, this grant, if we went for this grant to work with somebody to create a plan?
Yes, you can use it to create a study, a viability study.
A viability study.
Michael from the city is here and wanted to ask a question or jump in.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. So I agree with that. I think we had talked earlier, and I think the ideas are great. The infrastructure ideas are amazing. And I think if we could implement what Karen showed us, we would have a greater Main Street, no doubt about it. That would be amazing. But we have to think of UDOT and what they think as well, and taking the opportunity to do a planning process, bringing UDOT to the table, we'd probably have a better chance of actually getting an approval than we would have coming up with a plan and then thinking we have the infrastructure money, and then we just get stopped at the door because ODOT wasn't involved in creating that, or sorry, UDOT. Sorry, it's gonna take me a while.
I'm still doing it.
So it took me a while when I moved too.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great idea. I think we could all get together, and I don't think anybody would disagree that pedestrian amenities on Main are kind of lacking when you're talking about crossing the street. Otherwise, there wouldn't be those plastic things in the middle of the street that say, watch out for pedestrians that everybody's running over that are flat on the ground. So
I think for years we've been talking about how we could redo Main Street And I walked around with OSU's sustainable director, and she thinks it's really totally beautiful, but it's gonna be a paradigm shift. Because I don't think, because of it's being UDOT, I think we have to really look at having our main, where the people walk is behind the stores, where the food trucks are. And then finding the ways to help the businesses turn their front door into their back door and their back door into their front door, so people could come in.
Yeah, that was.
Karen?
Yeah, okay, so, Michael, just a heads up, when I was on council for the city, there was a downtown study that has been done. And that was, I think it was probably about 5 years ago. So there is, it's in the Netherlands somewhere. UDOT is, they're slow to respond to making some big changes. So that was a big reason, the hotspot funding, the $10 million that was granted to the city and the county, those side streets, I believe those that went out to bid just in the last couple weeks or months, that those projects are going to start. Chuck Williams had to redline quite a few of the idea that the committee that we had as a group to try to make it a complete streets. I don't know if people are familiar with that term, but it's building streets to your lowest denominator. So like for children and for elderly and for cyclists and for people who walk. And so all of the downtown side streets are going to have a revamping that's going to be taking place. So, and the idea would be that I can see is if the city and the county, we got together and we tried to go for this funding together, we could actually use more money to make those enhancements, to make our area safer. So,
So I don't disagree with any of that, but the thing that I heard Mary say is that maybe we should be looking at more putting our local traffic on a different street and turning the highway over to the highway.
Or it's when.
Oh my God.
Study the history of Moab. Main Street was not Main Street in the 50s. It was more 4th East, 5th West,
Yeah.
5th West, 4th. And, the Center Street was where the businesses were and where people walked. It was later when the town decided they wanted to capture the people that were driving through, that the shops started going on Main Street. So it's,
Well, I just wanted to, my point is simply that Main Street is what it is now. The shops are there, people walk there now, and it wouldn't be a bad effort to go through to do some more. I'd have to look at that planning, Karen, that you're talking about, but as I recall, the plan I looked like they had planned for a couplet, is what I would call it, where you have 5th West is one of your main streets and Main Street is the other main street. And there would be enhancements that were done to both of those. But to my knowledge, there's no plan for Main Street beyond conceptual plans. And so what I was talking about is if this is something that people believe in, maybe we could, if we could get the money and compel UDOT to come to the table, maybe we could move something forward on Main Street.
I see Colette nodding her head with thumbs up. Great. Karen, thank you. Chris, thank you for referencing Karen's materials. And I will admit that I'm not ready to read your master's thesis, Karen, but you've started and brought to the table another great conversation. So this should be a topic of conversation at the special meeting that we've scheduled for Tuesday, September 5th at 3 o'clock.
So I can't make it to that meeting.
Okay, you can.
I didn't say anything earlier because I thought you guys could have the meeting about the grant without.
Yeah.
But I really would like to be involved in this discussion.
Okay, so maybe you and Sky can coordinate and come up with a date and time for us to meet.
Okay.
Okay?
Because I think I really think it's doable.
Well, and I think-
We become creative.
Yeah.
We've got to think outside.
I also think we need to realize that our main street is extending further than it currently is as far as sidewalks. So that is one thing to think about is we are moving south, so we do need maybe some sidewalks, pedestrian
Right.
areas.
Forrest?
Where-
I just wanted to, I dropped information in the chat earlier about a training that we're having tomorrow with the Eastern AOG. And if any of you are able to attend, it will be fairly short, just about 30 minutes. I would encourage you to participate in that, and it will give you a lot more knowledge about the grant programs and kind of what we're looking for than I can give just in between ideas. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining in on that, Mary. Thank you for jumping in as well. You have some context that none of the rest of us have. So Karen, Mary, Michael, and the rest of the crew can be thinking about this and get together at the date where we set our special meeting and talk about this more. Let's include Biga in that, Madam Film Commissioner. She's her own commission. Can you imagine? Isn't that great? So we'll add that to the agenda. The agenda will formally approve the recommendation that'll go to the council for the Rural Counties Grant. And we have a good start now on our Rural Counties Opportunity Grant. And a reminder for those of you who are online, we can still add ideas either directly to members of the advisory board or to econdev@grandcountyutah.net. And with that, we're adjourned.
Wait, hey, good job, guys.
Oh, thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
I do like this. This is probably, I go to